What would it be like to find motivation? And what would it be like to be motivated and inspired by your kids? Most importantly, there are 3 rules that me and my kids live by. Number 1 is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Gotta do that because that is where true growth actually happens. Another one is taking full ownership. No excuses whatsoever. If you don't feel like going to the gym and you didn't go to the gym, you've got to be honest about it and be like, I didn't go to the gym and I caved to my discipline and my own vices and I didn't go. I have no excuse. And then the third one is this. There are 3 rules that me and my kids live by. Number 1 is get comfortable being uncomfortable. Gotta do that because that is where true growth actually happens. Another one is taking full ownership. No excuses whatsoever. If you don't feel like going to the gym and you didn't go to the gym, you've got to be honest about it and be like, I didn't go to the gym and I caved to my discipline and my own vices and I didn't go. I have no excuse. And then the third one is this, is keep your promises to yourself. I read this book here recently by Ed Milet. It's The Power of One More. And I will tell you, it is one of the best books that I have read in a very, very long time. And one of the things he says is, if you want to increase your confidence, you've got to keep the word to yourself. So like, for instance, if you write down like, hey, I am going to go to the gym at 5 a.m. on Monday morning, and that alarm goes off and we snooze it. I used to be a snoozer. Yes. Hit that snooze alarm multiple times. Double digits, usually. I mean, I would snooze that thing for 90 minutes. I'm not even kidding. Like, I'm going to digress here for a second, but what is the purpose of the snooze bar? If you have to get up at like 6:30 in the morning and you're like, I'm going to set it for 5 so I can start the awakening process an hour and a half early and just it's like we're training ourselves to delay like success because we just don't want to get up in the morning. So anyway, got to keep your promises to yourself. So if you say, I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. and I'm going to go to the gym, do it, because that is not the way to start your week. If you are not feeling confident in your life, chances are you probably aren't keeping the promises that you're keeping to yourself. It's like, hey, I'm not going to drink alcohol, and then you drink it. Or I'm not going to eat sweets this weekend, and then you do it. I'm not going to binge out on beer on Saturday night with the guys. Oh, crap. I'll do one. And then suddenly you're getting into a car naked, like, right, and asking where the KFC is. But it's all about keeping the promises to ourselves. But I have a story for you guys today as it relates to motivation and keeping promises, being the example. In the month of April, I have done these Friday shows, and it's been all about motivation. So we started with self, right, and then we went to marriage. And now what we're doing is we are going to really highlight being the example in front of kids and how powerful that is. So nothing will scare you, I don't think. Many things will scare you, but you know, there's not many that will scare you more than your 14-year-old coming to you and saying, hey, in 4 months, you're going to get down to your skivvies and we're going to do a bodybuilding show together, and you're going to have to get in the best shape of your life, and you're going to be in front of hundreds of people, and you and I are going to do this bodybuilding show together. And you're hearing him say this as you're drinking probably your 7th beer on New Year's Eve of 2021, and probably the fattest that you've been. And you're like, I'm sorry, what? We're doing what? So here's the story. My 17-year-old, his birthday is on the 1st of January. So he is a New Year's baby. So we've had the same tradition for as long as I can remember. We have people over for New Year's Eve, you know, friends and kids and all this other stuff. And we celebrate New Year's, but at midnight, we also celebrate my son's birthday. And he blows out his first candle of his birthday on that night. And what we've done for years is we've sat around and we're like, all right, what are you doing this year? What is going to be important and meaningful? What goals are you chasing? What dreams are you chasing? What are you going to do that makes you uncomfortable, right? That's what Team Hagner does. And we didn't always used to do this. In fact, we used to be pretty lazy people, but not anymore, not in recent years. So my son, who's 14 at the time, he's 17 now, looks at me and he goes, we're going to do a bodybuilding show together, me and you. And we're doing it this year. And I looked at him and I was like, I'm sorry, what? He's like, we're doing a bodybuilding show. Now, just for history, I'll tell you, I used to compete And the last show that I had done up to this point, remember, it's New Year's Eve 2021, was 10 years prior. It was in October of 2011. And that was more like a midlife crisis. I hadn't done one in almost 10 years to that point, but I did them in my younger years. So I did them in my 30s and I did them in my 20s a lot. I'd pretty much hung it up. I wasn't going to do it anymore. The diet, all that, time constraint, just wasn't going to do it. It wasn't important to me. So my son tells me that he has this dream to do a bodybuilding show and he wants to do it with me. And at first I was completely and totally caught off guard. I'm sitting here drinking, like I said, my probably 6th or 7th beer, super good example there, right? On New Year's Eve, enjoying New Year's Eve, and he lays this on me, and I thought he was joking. He's like, no, I'm serious. And I was like, dude, you're 14. I was like, we can't do a bodybuilding show. You're too young. He's like, no, actually, I'm not. I actually researched it, and you can be 13 and do these shows. And in fact, there's one that's on April 29th. I think it was April 29th, something like that. It was the end of April. And it's here actually in Liberty, Missouri, over by Kansas City. And I can be as young as 13 and still compete in this thing. I was like, wow, this dude's really done his homework. So I looked at the calendar, counted down the weeks, and I was like, that's 16 weeks away. I was like, I'm going to need like a massive like health and fitness overhaul to do this. So I wasn't feeling very motivated. And the thing that I'll share with you is, what would it be like to find motivation? And what would it be like to be motivated and inspired by your kids? And most importantly, to say yes to it. So if you're sitting there thinking like, well, were you nervous or scared or to commit to something like that? The answer was not just a yes, it's a residing hell yes. I was terrified beyond belief. I was like, I am not ready for this thing. This has not been on my radar. This is not even a part of my life anymore. Like I go to the gym, but I am not competing. Like there's no way. And then my son said this. I was like, dude, I don't know, man. Like that's a huge, huge demand on life. Like the training, the diet, the cardio, coming up with a routine, like all this stuff, man. It's a lot. And then my son looked at me and he goes, yeah. And we get to work out together every day for 16 weeks. And I don't know what it was about that, but suddenly those fears were overcome by the tremendous inspiration and I would even say external motivation from my son. All of a sudden, the why had changed. The goal even changed. And this is why I think it's really important for us to talk about motivation as it relates to our goal. Because I automatically thought like, well, the goal here is I got to be in the best shape I possibly can and do everything I can to like win my division. Isn't that what you're supposed to do? And that became, to be honest, that wasn't a very strong why for me because quite honestly, I could care less like how I do in these things. Like I always want to place and do well, sure, but that's not the end all be all, right? The end all be all for me was when he said, and we get to work out every day. I was like, oh, I'm in. Like the why completely and totally changed. The motivation to do the show totally changed. Suddenly it wasn't about the urgency and how out of shape I was and how much fat I had around my stomach and how much of an idiot I'd probably look on stage. Suddenly the motivating factor became getting to work out with my son. A lot of times when we're training for something, when we're training for like an event or something like that, it's like, I want to go do well at that thing, but we're not focused on how actually inspirational the journey is. Like all the imperfections along the way, all the discipline, all the hard workouts, all the conversations, all the sweat, all the camaraderie, all the connection, all those things that happen in 16 weeks. And the thing that I loved the most training for that event with my son was the daily workouts. And most specifically, it was the time I got to spend with him. It was the conversations that we got to have between the sets that we were doing. It was the fact that I got to spot him and the psychological impact that I knew that probably was impacting him is like, hey man, this is heavy weight. Your dad's got you. And then he got to do that exact same thing for me. He got to spot me. How cool is that? 14-year-old boy spotting his father who's lifting heavy weight and needs some help. Like how valuable did that young man feel in that moment? He'll tell you it was awesome. It was an awesome feeling to be able to be 14 years old and help your dad up on that bench press or doing squats or curls or whatever we were doing. And then we got to do the show. And the show was magical. And we actually did pretty darn good. Both of us got second place in our category in both of our divisions. But that wasn't the coolest thing. And actually, if you're watching me on YouTube, if you can see that drawer right there, that's where my medals are at. That's where my medals are at. That's how important the medals are to me. They're in a drawer. They're not hung up. They're not hanging anywhere. They're literally in that drawer. Actually, I'll show them to you. For those of you guys who are watching us on YouTube, check this out. This is how important they are to me. I thought I had two. I thought I competed in two categories. Obviously, I competed in three because I've got three. There they are right there. If you can see them on YouTube, I have 3 second place medals. But you can see how important they are to me. They've been hanging out in that drawer since 2022. But here's the funny thing. I asked my son, I said, hey, what was the best part of this whole thing for you? This was after we were like indulging, I think, in pizza, and I was drinking a couple beers, and like, it was great. We were just having a great time. And I said, what was the best part of this? And he was just like winning second place in my categories. And of course, like, that's what a 14-year-old is going to say. And he was just beaming, actually absolutely beaming with so much pride. He was so proud of himself. And then he asked me, he's like, what was the most meaningful part for you? And I was like, honestly, it was just working out with you. That's it. Just working out with you. The conversations, the talks we had on the way to the gym, on the way home, the talks we had in between the sets, that's what motivated me. That was most meaningful to me. I couldn't wait to go to the gym. And it wasn't because of the workouts. It was because of the company. So there's that. I know that my 17-year-old's not at an age right now where he actually even listens to the podcast. But maybe he'll listen to this one at some point in his life. And Mason, if you're listening, I just want to let you know that was one of the most magical seasons of my entire life, was that season training for that show with you. And it had nothing to do with how well we did at the show. That was a bonus. It had everything to do with just spending time with you. That's it. That's it. I would go through all of it again. And I would accept dead last in the show just to have 16 weeks of training with you every day. And I'll tell you, I'm going to digress and change the subject just a little bit, but my son is only about 15 months away as I record this to leave the house and leave for college. And I'll tell you, if you really want a motivating factor, I'm proud to say that I don't regret not saying yes to that. Because if I'm recording right now in the month of April of 2025, knowing that my son is 15 months away from leaving for college, and the last thing on his radar is doing a bodybuilding show with his old man, I can tell you that with all confidence. The last thing on his radar right now is doing a bodybuilding show with me. I can tell you that I am not a man harboring regret that I didn't take that opportunity to be with my son and to do something that was insanely uncomfortable. Going back to our core values of get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? I was willing to be uncomfortable, like really uncomfortable, just so I could have those 16 weeks with him. I took full ownership, and so did he. We said, hey, 0 excuses. We're going after this thing, and we're going to train as hard as we can. The chips are going to fall where they're going to fall, but we're going to do everything that we can in our power to do the best we can. So that was number 2. And then the third one was this, keeping our promises to ourselves. We committed to doing that show. We committed to training on certain days every week. We committed to following that, seeing that thing through, no matter what, no matter how scary it was, get on stage in front of hundreds of people and do something like that with your kid. But we saw it through. And I'll tell you, neither one of us are talking about regret. And that in of itself is very motivating. I don't know what you needed to hear today, and I don't know if you needed to hear this message today of motivation. But just know it doesn't matter what motivates you as long as it motivates you. And sometimes you have to dig a little deeper like I did to grab onto this opportunity with my son and really figure out, well, what is the why? What is what I'm really after here? Is it a bodybuilding medal? It's not that, because crap, dude, like I haven't even seen these things in 3 years. They've been in my drawer. Or is it spending the time with my son? And I think you know what I picked and why. If you listen to this podcast, you're probably wired the same. So That's what I got for you guys. Tune in next week. I'm going to have a riveting Friday episode for you. If you haven't seen the show Adolescence yet, I'm going to be doing a recap on that and some thoughts on that. But it was pretty crazy what I saw with that Netflix series. It's pretty nuts. But we're going to be talking about that next week. So have an amazing weekend. Enjoy your family. Continue to be an uncommon man in a common world. And go out and live legendary. Take care.